So now we're going to study about the skeleton system of an animal. Skeleton system of animal, we study about the axial part. This is the axial skeleton and these are the appendicular skeleton. So first we study about this axial skeleton. This includes, first there was formed the skull. This is skull and this is the mandible. Mandible contains teeth and the mandibular region, whereas the skull contains the brains and nervous system. Skull is made up of bones like occipital, temporal bones and etc. Here there is the temporal bone present and between it is present between the temporal and mandibular region. So this joint is known as temporal mandibular joint. Later we study the joints. Firstly we have to study only the bones. So this is the horn and let me mark it out. These are the cervical vertebrae. The first cervical vertebra is known as atlas. There's a second cervical vertebra is known as axis. So first is atlas and second is axis. And this is also a PYQ question, that what is the first vertical column known as of cervical vertebra is known as atlas, and these are the present in 7 number. Now we study about the thoracic vertebra. Let me clear it out. This is the vertebral column. Vertebral column is divided into 5 parts. First one was cervical vertebra. Second one was thoracic vertebra. Third was lumbar vertebra. Fourth is sacral vertebra and fifth is coccygeal vertebra. The first cervical vertebra, as I said, you already divided into atlas and axis. Whereas let me study about the second thoracic vertebra. There are the spinous processes are present in this vertebra, and these vertebra continues to these ribs. So these thoracic vertebra is attached to the ribs and these are spinous in the nature. And the third one is lumbar vertebra. Lumbar vertebra are 5 in nature. These are 5 lumbar vertebra present in this. Fourth one was sacral vertebra. Sacral vertebra are synchronized vertebra, which is divided into, which is actually merged and not we can be clarified into different types. Fifth one was coccygeal vertebra. These are the small vertebrae present in the coccygeal. So this is mainly from the tail of an animal and it is help in the movement of an animal. So these are the 5 vertebra: cervical, thoracic, lumbar vertebra, sacral vertebra and coccygeal vertebra. So in the next part we study about the appendicular system, and the appendicular system contains the this limb and this forelimb. Let me first study about the forelimb. First we will go scapula. Scapula is a triangular bone which is present at the uppermost part of the animal. Second one was humerus. It is the highest or longest largest bone in the forelimb. Third one was radius and ulna. These are the two bones present in the forelimb. These are the bones equal in size and these are fused bones. Fourth one was carpal, which are present in 4 in number, and these form knee joints. So again next one was metacarpal. Metacarpal are much longer bones comparative to carpal bones. And the last one was pharynx, and these pharynx contain the 3 phalanges and these have 2 digits. So let me clear it out. These are 2 digits. These are 2 digits, and then these 2 digits there are 3 phalanges, and these phalanges are known as the phalanges 1, phalanges 2nd and 3rd. Let me study the third hind limb. Hind limb is firstly there is the highest in the uppermost present. It is known as sit bone, or it is also pelvic girdle. It is divided into a pelvic girdle is formed by the ischium, ilium and pubis. These 3 bones forms the pelvic girdle, and these are the combinedly form the hip bone, or we can say pelvic girdle. This pelvic girdle again continues by the femur. It is the longest and largest bone in the animal body or human body. It is a bone present in the hind limb, and in comparative to whole body it is also a largest and longest bone. Then again when there is a present a small triangular bone which is known as patella. It is a sesamoid bone. And now we go, these the 2 bones are present, which is our tibia and fibula. Tibia is much longer bone, whereas the fibula is smaller and it is just synchronized to the tibia. And now we'll study about the tarsal. Tarsal are 4 bones known as the hock joint, formed hock joint, and these tarsals are present 4 in number. Metatarsals are much longer bones as comparatively we study in the metacarpal. So in the forelimbs they are present known as these are called as carpal, and then for hind limb these are known as tarsal. In hind limb there is 2 digits as we studied in the forelimb and 3 phalanges. Now so here we go. The costovertebra is used for the ribs. As we know, when we study our skeleton system, there are the bones like costovertebral joints. Costovertebral joint is the joint which is formed by, this is like a spinous process and these are the ribs. So between the spinous process and ribs there is a joint present which is known as the our costovertebral joint, and this costovertebral joint, costo which means ribs, and vertebral, which means thoracic vertebra. So let me make it clear. Costo is used for ribs, chondro is used for the cartilage, where the sternal is used for sternum, and vertebral is used for the thoracic vertebra. So remember this, where is the words these like costo, chondro, sternal and vertebrals are come. These refers to ribs, cartilage, sternum and thoracic vertebra. So now we study joints. So here we go. When we study about the joints, the first joint which we're gonna study is the study of temporomandible joint. Temporomandible joint, this is the joint which is present between the our temporal bone and the mandibular joint. This is the mandibular region and this is skull. So the mandibular region contains mainly the jaw of an animal, which contains teeth and other like mouth lower structures, and where the skull contains the brain and the nervous system, whole organs and etc. So the temporal is a bone which present at this region, and the temporal or mandibular region is known as this because of the temporal bone and mandibular bone. So this is known as the temporal or mandibular joint. Second joint is yes joint. When we move our head from the upper to lower direction or lower to upper direction, this is known as the yes joint. This is also known as atlano-occipital joint. It is formed between the, as from the word we can guess, it is formed like the atlano-occipital joint. Atlano is related to the atlas, which is our first bone, and occipital is a bone present in the skull. So it is made up of atlano-occipital joint. Here the joint is present between the atlas and occipital. Second joint is known as the no joint. These are PYQ, so please make it out clear these things very easily. So yes joint is present between the atlas and occipital, whereas the no joint is present between the it is known as atlano-axis joint. So it is present between the atlas and axis, and here this is the joint which is present. It is known as no joint. No is because when we move our head from right to left direction or left to right direction, this movement is basically known as no joint, and it is includes atlano-axial joint. So because these two bones are rub on the surfaces of each other. Now we study about costovertebral joint. As I said you earlier, the costo used for the ribs and vertebral is for vertebral column. So these are for the ribs. The costo word is used for these ribs, and the vertebral is used for this vertebral column. And the second joint is costochondrial joint. Costo is here already I said as costo is used for ribs, and the chondrial is used for the cartilage. So as we know, these are the ribs. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 ribs. 7 ribs are true ribs. Other are the floating ribs which are made up of cartilage. For example, this rib, this is made up of cartilage. So this will form an costochondrial joint. Now let me study costosternal joint. Costosternal joint, it is made up of cartilage and it is of sternum, so it is known as the costosternal joint, sternum joint. Now let me study about the forelimb joints. These are the forelimb joints. These include these joints: shoulder joint, elbow joint, knee joint, fetlock, pastern and coffin. These three joints are same in the forelimb or hind limb. Let me study first about the shoulder joint. Shoulder joint is formed by the scapula and humerus, as we can see these in between these two bones. Another one was elbow joint, which is present at the place of elbows. It provides mobility to forelimb. Another one was knee joint. It's helped to move animal's leg, and it is known as knee joint, which is made by the carpal. Another one was the fetlock joint. Fetlock joint is formed by the metacarpal and phalanx, and it is first joint. There are three joints are present. First joint was fetlock, second was pastern, and third was coffin. And these three joints, pastern and coffin, is present between the phalanx, and these three joints are same present in the hind limb. Now we study the joints of hind limb. First was iliosacral joint. As we know, our pelvic girdle, or when I said you already also pelvic is made up of three bones: ilium, ischium and pubis. So this is formed by the ilium and sacral joint. Sacral vertebra, this sacral and this ilio used for ilium, which is the bone of our pelvic girdle. So this joint is formed. Second joint was hip joint, or we can say pelvic girdle joint. It is formed by the hip bone and femur. Femur is largest and longest bone of our body, as we know already. Now the stifle joints come. Stifle joint is formed by the three bones: femur, patella femur, patella and tibiofibula. These three bones combines and form the stifle joints. Fourth one was the hock joint. Hock joint is formed by the tarsals, and as we said earlier, for example, we already studied in the forelimb, the fetlock, pastern and coffin. These three joints are already present in the forelimb as same as present in the hind limb. So here our skeleton system is completed, joints are studied. So in the next lecture we studied the bone. We going to study the bones and cartilage. Okay, bye.